Welcome to Koine Corner. I've always thought that if I could give people who read the New Testament a gift, I would want to give them a New Testament that didn't have chapter and verse numbers. Because when the chapters and verses were broken out for easy reference, sometimes the verse numbers broke right in the middle of a sentence. And if you are someone who was referred to a particular verse, you might miss the first half of the verse by only going to the one that was referred. Today's passage has a component of that. We're going to take a look at Romans chapter 3, verse 22b, the last little part, and then verses 23 and 24. Let's have a look. For there is no difference, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, and are being justified freely by his grace through the redemption which is in Christ Jesus. So the two words we're considering today are in verse 23. But first, I just want to touch on that little tag at the end of 22. There's no difference. When Paul writes to the Romans, he wants them to understand that the thing he's about to tell them applies to everyone equally. There is no difference. So the words we're considering today are the words translated sinned and fall short. So let's take a look at the verse, that phrase, Pantes kar hemarton kai husterontai tes doxes to theou. So we'll break it down one word at a time so we know exactly what we're looking at. Pantes means all. Gar is for. Hemarton is sinned. It's a simple past form of the word hamartia, to miss the mark, to sin. And simple past in Koine is an aorist tense. Kai means and. Husterontai is our falling short. Tes doxes is of the glory, and to theou is of God. So for all have sinned and are falling short of the glory of God. Now Greek tenses tend to have either a punctiliar action, meaning it happened all at once, or a linear action, meaning that it unfolded over time, or is a progressive, I'm so sorry, a progressive ongoing action. In this case, hemarton is an aorist, a simple past, is punctiliar. It's something that happened in the past. All have sinned in the past. It's a historical fact. It's a done deal. There's no getting the toothpaste back in the tube. But then the next word, husterontai, is a present passive. It has a linear ongoing effect. So I'm going to flesh out that notion in this next slide. If we take a look at this, everyone has sinned or missed the mark. That's a historic fact. That's over and done with. We can't undo it, while continually falling short or having lack. So Paul tells us that a component or a factor in this sin is that we have an ongoing problem of shortfall. We don't ever seem to make it, pardon me again, all the way to where we need to be. One informs the other. So why did everyone sin without a difference? Remember, there is no difference. Why did everyone sin? Because of our ongoing lack, because of our shortfalling. It's an archery metaphor. So if you think about missing the mark as an archery term, the mark in archery is the bullseye. The mark in Romans 3 is the glory of God. Well, why do we keep missing the mark? Why do we not hit the bullseye? Is it because of our stubborn willfulness that the bullseye's over there, but we keep shooting over here? Well, there's a different word for that, paraptoma, trespass, a transgression. And that is a part of our experience as humans. But that's not what Paul says is the problem. He says we've all missed the mark, we've all not hit the bullseye of God's glory because we are perpetually, continually falling short. We know where the bullseye is. We see the bullseye, but our arrows don't make it to the bullseye. They fall short. So if we were to take a mental picture of our lives, and at the end of the field is this bullseye representing the glory of God, the ground leading up to the bullseye would be littered with fallen arrows. Why littered and why not just once? Because short falling is our ongoing and perpetual problem. So the good news here is, there's the bad news. You're a lousy archer and I'm a lousy archer. Not because I have a bad eye, but because my arm is weak and I can't seem to get the arrows all the way to the bullseye, even when I'm trying my best. The good news is, Paul tells the Romans that in verse 24, that they are now justified, they're made right through grace in this redemption that is in Christ Jesus. So he says you're made right despite your failure, despite your shortfalling, despite your lack of a bullseye. You're made right by the application of Christ's bullseye record to our record of shortfalls. That's a magnificent deal for us. So this is, I think, one of the most important parts of being a human, is that we were raised in a meritocracy from our earliest days. We're told that if you try hard, your work will pay off. If you practice, if you do your best, good things are going to happen. And that's all true. But here's what isn't true. If you try harder today, if you strive and struggle to sharpen your eye, to strengthen your arm, to improve your bow, and even manage to hit the bullseye of the glory of God today, it does nothing to make up for all those short-fallen arrows of the past. And remember, there's no difference, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So the more harder gospel, the you trying more to do better, even if you were to succeed today, doesn't undo the reality of the past. But the great news, according to Paul, again in Romans 3, the great news is, despite the fact that we may be lousy archers in a perpetual fashion, Christ is a perfect archer who scores only bullseyes. And through this redemption that comes by grace, a free gift of God in this substitutionary offering of Christ's life and death and resurrection, we don't have to be perfect archers, because his bullseye life gets substituted over our life of shortfalls. That's pretty powerful stuff. This guy, Paul, he really had a great head on his shoulders. So he advocates for the Romans to trust in this substitutionary offering of God, in this redeeming act of Christ. And I'll leave it up to you to decide what you want to do with that. You can either go for the more better, the more harder school of perfecting your archery, or you can allow the substitution of Christ in your place, so that God looks at you and says, bullseye. If you found a benefit in that, I hope that you'll hit the like button, maybe subscribe to the channel. If there's a friend of yours who could benefit from hearing that message today, please share it with them. And as always, until we see one another again, charis kai irene humin, grace and peace to you, and have a great day.